All right, a week from today, the big Fox debate. Of course, Bret Baier and Mark McCallum will take you that big night to see who scores some points and might maybe surprise you on the upside. Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, best-selling author, contributor, brilliant guy, knows every little creek and nook and cranny in this country, by the way. It's scary smart. But, Karl, good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be on.
Can you see someone emerging who scores either a good line or makes an impact or surprises on the upside in this debate? Or has all that been sort of hashed out to the point like, well, go ahead?
No, I think there's going to be a moment where more people are going to see whoever's on that stage than they've seen of the field thus far this year. They've seen individual candidates make their announcement. They've seen the front runner dominate the headlines. But no, this is going to be a big evening because there are a lot of people who are going to be watching, and several people, not just one, but several people can have a good night and cause their numbers to rise and cause a lot of people to say, you know what, I need to reconsider the field.
You know, you always remind me when we look at these polling numbers across the country and all, it's one race at a time. It's the caucuses, then it's, New Hampshire and what have you, and then South Carolina, all that. So it's race by race and who has the momentum. Well, in 2016, Donald Trump succeeded brilliantly picking apart that field and emerging as the unbeatable guy. Now he is starting off deemed the unbeatable guy. So there is the pressure that comes with that. How do you see it?
Well, I think that's right. And he faces a big decision. If he doesn't show up, then he's going to give the stage to all of his potential competitors, and maybe one or two or more are going to strike some very responsive chords with the voters. On the other hand, if he shows up, he can count on being the pincushion for the evening. Everybody's going to be going after the front runner. But there are pluses and minuses to each. I don't think we have any idea of how it's going to pan out. He has said he's not going to show up, that he's neither going to sign the pledge that he would support the nominee of the Republican Party, nor show up, saying, why should I show up if I'm way out in front? But, this is a delicate thing. And debates, you may remember when we had the 2012 debates, for example, in 2011 and 2012, it went back and forth. Sometimes Romney had a good night, sometimes Gingrich had a good night, sometimes Herman Cain had a good night. And we could see that here. But I think it is more advantageous for the former president to be in the debate, not to be in the debate, because if he's in the debate, he dominates it just because of the nature of his persona and because of his ability to make all things about all Trump all the time. Real quickly,
I mean, what is the ramifications for Donald Trump if he doesn't go on Wisconsin? It's a battleground state, to put it mildly. Memories might not be long in a general election if he were the nominee, but would they be sore about that?
Well, there might be some residual on that, but I think it was likely drop away before the election. But what happens if he says, I'm not going to Wisconsin because I'm the front runner, and I'm not going to the Reagan debate because I hate the person who's the chairman of the board of the Reagan library? I mean, after a while, people start to say, well, why isn't he willing to show up? The front runner ought to be willing to show up and show us that he deserves to be the front runner by dominating the evening. So, there are pluses and minuses whether he comes or whether he goes, but it'll be interesting to see what his final decision is.
Indeed. We'll probably know at the last minute. All right. Thank you very much, Karl Rove. Good seeing you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.